Everybody,
Must have not been at that meeting where we put it on.
I'm going to call to order the May 8th, 2024 Planning Board meeting. I do not see Jeff here, so I will have Mr. Debo for him.
Thank you.
Not a problem. All right, let's start with administrative board work. We have approval of minutes. I'm going to wait until June. Oh, yeah. Get right in. I like getting into it, you know? Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Lynn.
Jake, could we,
That's my job.
we like
Yeah,
spread it out?
absolutely.
You know if Ann's gonna be here?
I would say you can just take your chair out and you guys can go right there if she's not here. Or come over here if you want. So we've got administrative board work. I am gonna hold off on the meetings till June. I haven't had a chance to look
Mr.
through
Chair,
them.
we have 7 voting members, quorum, so
Yes.
we can travel.
Absolutely, thank you. I'm gonna wait till June on those. We do not have any regional impact determinations. There is a regional impact from Manchester in our read file. And discussions with town staff. John,
I have
Kelly,
nothing this evening.
None this evening, Mr. Chair.
I know we have our special meeting tomorrow night at 7, which is on the PUD up at Technology Hill. All right, so we will get right into it. Old business here. We have a public hearing on an application for formal review of a site plan and conditional use permit to construct a 58,432 square foot warehouse and storage facility and associated site improvements, 88A Harvey Road, Plainview Drive, map 14, lot 17, zoned industrial 2, Patriot Holdings LLC is the applicant. VAB Properties is the owner. Continued from January 10th, February 14th, and April 10th. Come on up, sir. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Fantastic.
Mr. Chairman, again, the board needs to act to accept the application.
Yep.
There are no outstanding checklist items. The staff recommends the board to vote to accept the application as complete.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the application as complete.
I have a motion by Lynn, a second by Art. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions, and chair votes in the affirmative. The application is complete. All right. Whenever you're ready, you can sit down and introduce your name and we'll get going.
Good evening, John Noonan from Fieldstone Land Consultants here on behalf of Patriot Holdings LLC, who is the applicant on this project. We had multiple continuations. We had originally placed our formal application in the August of 23. The continuations were based on us waiting for state permitting and working through staff review comments. So we've addressed the majority of those comments, working with engineering and also staff and Stantec to address everything that we have up to this point. So at this point, we're looking for approval of the conditional use permit for 3,000 square feet of temporary impact to a wetland buffer and site plan approval for the light industrial building with 2 units. So recently we worked with John Trottier and met with Kelly, and also Stantec went through our review and submitted our final items, trying to address all comments that were open up to this point. In that time, we've submitted the DES sewer connection permit, so that was sent from the town, signed by Manchester, and that will be going to the state shortly. So the town had submitted that this week to Manchester for their signature and sign off. Our alteration of terrain permit is in hand, so we received that about a month ago. So there was a copy of that. We have received FAA approval for the height of the building, also review height of lighting fixtures around the site. So everything's good on that. One of the items that was last left was also utility serve letters. So we've now received all of our letters for water, sewer, gas through Liberty, and Eversource for our power. Power would come down Harvey Road and the underground service. So they serve that, placing in the letter that all costs would be based on our applicant to pay the cost for that service, as it would be all underground and not covered any portion by Eversource. So now we're just waiting on our sewer permit, and that everything will be finalized on our permits. There are still outstanding comments with Stantec, which are pretty minor. They're based on the Stormwater Prevention Plan, the SWIP, which falls under the general construction permit with the EPA. These are typical. You don't file for them. There's a notice of intent, which is once you have a contractor under contract to move forward with a project, that gets submitted to the EPA. So the portions that are left for the comments on that are really waiting once the project's approved and we're able to bid out the project and choose a contractor, and then that would be finalized and submitted on the NOI to the EPA website. So our 4 waivers that we're asking for tonight. First one being a minimum cover over proposed drain pipe. So in working with John Trottier here, we were able to change out what we had for pipe. So anything that's under pavement would be reinforced concrete pipe, class 4. So this would meet a DOT spec. Anything that's under landscaped areas, non-paved areas, those are still going to remain HDPE pipe as was permitted before. So that's the first waiver. Our second waiver is relating to the minimum width of sidewalks. So on 2 sides of the buildings, we have sidewalk with vertical granite curb, width being 5 feet, where 7 feet is required. We needed to narrow up and make it as tight as we could to fit tractor trailers. So since it's an industrial site, we needed, between getting tractor trailer turning radiuses around the building and also just for fire and other emergency vehicles, it tightens it up and just helps it that much more to go to a 5 foot. These aren't public walkways. It's going to be a private site. Waiver 3, requesting for relating to the scale on the existing conditions plan. We submitted a 1 inch equals 60, where 1 in 40 is required, and it's readable at that scale. The existing condition shows the entire property, so it was hard to fit it onto a 1 in 40 scale, so it's a 1 in 60. The 4th waiver is really an exception, and that's for up to 36 feet width in the driveway width at the curb cut. So we maximized out to 36 feet wide. This was shown on the preliminary plans too that we met with the board a year ago. So this is to allow turning off of Plainview Drive with tractor trailers entering the site and exiting. Also helps with the fire truck turning radiuses in and out of the site. So those are our 4 waivers. And then our conditional use permit, this is for the temporary impacts to the wetland buffer. So there is no wetland impact. This is just to the buffer. And it would be during the installation of the sewer service. Sewer would be run from the building down to connect to the municipal site. There's an existing woods road that's gravel, no trees on, so we're following that woods road to make the connection. So there is a manhole onto the property and a sewer stub that was stubbed out when the town did municipal sewer in this area. So we're following that same run down through the woods road. However, it does cross the buffer because on each side of that woods road is wetlands, and we'll be using sheet piling and trench boxes. So it'd be a vertical cut to put that sewer in, no impacts to the left and right. So we've detailed that in our plans, and that's for the conditional use permit. I'd like to open it up
Show
for
me where that is on the plan.
it'd be sheet UT1 and PP1.
Page 6.
Yeah, sheet 6 will show the full run. Yep, perfect.
Okay, thank you.
So as you can see, it runs from the rear of the building, running from the west to the east, following that existing woods road. So currently, that Woods Road exists and runs down and then meets where that existing sewer manhole was installed. And there's a stub on that sewer manhole coming out. However, we're not going to use the stub. We're going to do an internal drop. That manhole is extremely deep, so we're going to do an internal drop, and that was worked out with engineering on that and on how we're going to do that.
Great. I am going to go to the board, see if they have anything to say. We'll, the staff, then we'll bring it to the board, and then we'll open it up to the public.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, John outlined the 3 waiver requests, all of which staff is supportive. Just one correction in the staff memorandum, it should be a Class 5 pipe, not a Class 4 pipe. So again, as long as the applicant identifies it as a Class 5 pipe, staff is supportive of the waiver request. The 4th exception, as John indicated, was the width of the driveway, that being 36 feet versus the 24. And again, that's an exception, staff supports that as well. John summarized the permits, those being the sewer, New Hampshire DES sewer discharge permit, the alteration of terrain permit, sewer discharge permit, as well as the town's stormwater permit. And we are aware that the AOT permit has been approved. The applicant should submit for and obtain all project permits, indicate the permit approval numbers on the permit table on the site plan, and provide copies of all permits to the planning department for their files. The applicant revised submission indicates an architectural rendering plan where the title block location of the building plan submitted does not comply with the regulations. We're recommending that the title block be updated accordingly. Item 8, applicant has indicated an updated off-site improvement plan at a scale of 1 inch equals 100 feet, which does not comply with the regs. The plan is absent of the appropriate details relative to the proposed utilities within the roadway right-of-way, offset from the roadway pavement, impacts to the roadway pavement, impacts to the drainage swales, and associated clearing of or if any easements are from any of the abutters is needed for the proposed connection point. The revised plan is incomplete as presented. We're requesting that the applicant arrange a meeting with the Department of Engineering and Environmental Services to discuss the off-site improvements and necessary design information under this application. John and I have had the discussion, and there may be an alternate route. Item 9, we have comments related to the drainage analysis. Item 10 are comments related to the SWIP. As John indicated, there's 10 items there, but that typically is something that's taken care of prior to any of the construction, but it is a requirement prior to plan signature. And lastly, to verify the DRC comments of the Planning, Heritage, Conservation Commissions, the Fire Department, and the Sewer Division are met. Again, the board action items were the 3 waiver requests and the exception. The exception, again, once you do actually approve the plan, you're granting the exception. And lastly, the improvements within the CO district, you'll have to act upon that. That's all I have.
Thank you. I will bring it to the board. Does the board have any questions?
So are you all set with, I already forgot, it was a 5 to a 4 or a 4 to a 5 on a pipe?
On the
You-
pipe.
Yes,
That's a pipe.
I read that off of the
Okay.
Staff
written motion here. However, our plan, so it would be sheet GR1, which shows grading and drainage plan as Class 5.
Okay, so
RCP.
we're good on that. Thank you. Other than that, I'm all set. I'm all set.
Anything else from the board?
As far as the design, Heritage Commission was, give its approval as presented.
Great. Where is your dumpster on this? I see a note about a
So-
dumpster enclosure. Where is your dumpster? on
Yeah,
this?
there's loading docks on the eastern side of the building.
Yep.
So we have parking there on the north and the south side of that end. There's trash compactors. So these are
Kinda
enclosed.
inside
It's
of-
not an open
yeah.
dumpster. They
So
would
it's
have
inside of the loading dock itself.
exactly
Okay.
correct.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that it's not open where you'd see trash. We've also added as screening is to add fencing along that one edge that's towards the road.
Right.
However, with the trees and everything, that wouldn't be visible anyway from the road.
Yeah, I don't think it needs any fencing.
It's industrial up there
Yeah,
anyway. So
exactly.
the only ones they'll see are the plane spotters.
Exactly. All right, so this is a public hearing. I'm going to open it up to the public and see if there are any comments. If you would like to come up, please state your name and address. Come on up or go on? Come on up. Any comments? Are you moving? No? All right. Seeing none, I will bring it back to the board here. And we have closed the public hearing. Any additional input from the board? All right, we have some waivers to vote on here. I would like to, let's take the first three together and the last one separately.
Well, the last one is covered if we vote to,
If we don't do anything.
yeah, if we don't do
Okay.
anything, then it automatically
So then
carries.
in that case, we can take
So we just
them
need
all
to
at
do the
once.
three, yeah.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve the waivers as they are listed here in the memorandum from Kelly and John dated May 8th, 2024. That is number 1, number 2, and number 3. And the reason is, if granted, they have no public detriment.
Fantastic, I have a motion, I'll take a second.
Second that.
Second from Lynn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? And the chair votes in affirmative. Your waivers have all been granted.
Thank you.
Let's see, we have a conditional use permit here.
Mr. Chair, I will move that we grant approval of the conditional use permit for the 3,000 square feet of temporary wetland buffer impact for the construction of a sewer line providing sanitary sewer to the subject property, which is 88A Harvey Road, Plainview Drive, tax map 14, lot 17. This is Zone Industrial 2. Patriots Holding LLC is the applicant, and BAB Properties LLC is the owner.
I have a motion from Mark, can I get a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
Second from Lynn, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? And the chair votes affirmative. The CUP has been approved. And last but not least, we have I'm looking for a motion on the application itself.
Mr. Chair, I will move that we conditionally approve the site plan to construct a 58,432 square foot warehouse and storage facility and associated site improvements. 88A Harvey Road, Plainview Drive, tax map 14, lot 17, Zone Industrial 2. Patriot Holdings LLC is the applicant, and BAB Properties LLC is the owner, in accordance with plans prepared by Fieldstone Land Consultants, PLLC, dated February 10th, 2022, last revised April 18th, 2024.
I have a motion, I'm looking for a second.
Second that, Mr. Chair.
Second by Lynn, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? And the chair votes in the affirmative. And you have a conditionally approved site plan, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank
I also
you.
want to thank John and Kelly for helping me through the process here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, well, he gets down. We are going to move to some new plans here. Our first one's going to be a public hearing on an application for formal review of a subdivision and lot line adjustment plan for 10 and 13 Sheridan Drive, map 16, lots 42-4 and 50-3, zoned AR1, the Gardocki Family Trust, owner and applicant.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, there are no outstanding checklist items. Staff recommends the board vote to accept the application as complete.
I will take a motion for completeness.
Chair, I will move that we accept the application as complete.
In a second.
Second that, Mr. Chair.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? And chair votes in the affirmative. Your application is complete. All right, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and
Floor is
good
yours.
evening, everybody. My name is Paul Chisholm. I'm with Keach Nordstrom Associates. We're the engineers and surveyors of record for the project. Tonight, I'm joined by several members of the Gardocki family, who are the owners and applicants of the properties, as they seek subdivision approval. Properties are located at 10 and 13 Sheridan Drive at the end of a cul-de-sac neighborhood. 10 Sheridan is the larger parcel at the end, with just under 8 acres in total area, and number 13 is just off to the west, with just over 1.5 acres. Both parcels are currently situated with single-family homes occupied by members of the family. Historically, however, the family has run a business out of the larger property for many years. which kind of explains the large gravel area in the large barn, as well as the secondary driveway to Old Dairy Road. Obviously, that driveway was utilized by the business and for commercial purposes, so as to keep a quiet neighborhood quiet. Both properties are fairly wooded, and there's a healthy amount of vegetation between the abutting properties and structures within those properties. The surrounding neighborhood is also almost all residential, with the exception of one or two properties. One, I believe, is an awning company on Old Dairy Road, and the town owns a piece across the street as well. The project proposes to adjust the shared lot line between the two, and then further subdivide the larger parcel into 4 total for 3 additional lots. This project received approval for 4 frontage variances from the Zoning Board of Adjustment in November of 2023, with the understanding that the driveway at 13 Sheridan will remain as is. That existing driveway at the end of Sheridan Drive for 10 will be improved so that it can be a shared driveway for access into 2 lots, and that the old commercial driveway that goes to Old Dairy Road will be improved as a shared driveway servicing 2 lots as well. All 4 lots will be serviced by on-site septic systems, and both properties' access from Old Dairy will have individual wells. There is water, however, in Sheridan Drive, and so the house at 10 is currently on a well that will actually be tapped into the water system, and then the new lot off of that road will be tapped into the water system as well. Of course, this subdivision will have all the typical features that you might normally see with the typical subdivision in town, most notably a detention pond for stormwater management. There's obviously necessary easements for future maintenance, not only for stormwater, but for the shared driveways and everything like that in the future. During construction, we have an erosion control plan, and the applicants will be subjected to the requirements of a stormwater pollution plan, which is approved by the town and filed with the EPA as well. There are a couple of waivers with this proposal. The first is for site distance, and the second is for plan scale. The plan scale is a relatively simple one. Basically, we had submitted a plan set for our first design review submittal. Some of the feedback that we got was it would be really nice to have basically an overview of the existing site on one single plan sheet. We just couldn't make it fit with the scales that were given. That is sheet 2 in the plan set. It just does a nice job of really showing everything. So where we couldn't get it to 40 scale, we had to ask for the waiver, which I think kind of makes sense to everyone involved. And then the second is for site distance. And what I would say is that the 2 shared driveways, so the one at the end of Sheridan servicing the 2 lots, and then the one from Old Dairy servicing the 2 lots, those are all fully compliant. The driveway that we're talking about is actually shown on sheet 12. And that's the driveway for an existing house for number 13, which is off to the west side of the cul-de-sac. That house has existed for 25 plus years. I think it was built in 1994 or something like that. And basically, we do meet half of the site distance requirement. We were asked to look at it as if someone was driving down Sheridan Drive. I think the typical way and the way most people would drive is you would turn right and go counterclockwise around the circle. That's just kind of how people do it around here. The other way would be is obviously if you're driving down Sheridan, you turn left and go clockwise around the circle. That's the way in which we don't have sight distance. It just requires a little bit view a little bit further down Sheridan Drive, and what actually happens is that sight line clips the neighbor's property. The applicants approached that neighbor about this, talked about, what do you think about getting an easement? I think everybody was a little uncomfortable, the applicant, for asking, and the adjacent landowner certainly doesn't want a legal instrument tied to their property that they don't perceive as really providing any value. This driveway's existed for a long time without any incident. And the only driveways off of the cul-de-sac are owned and operated by the applicants. So I wrote a letter to that effect. I'm certainly happy to go into that more if the board would like. Lastly, I would say that we've reviewed staff comments and the recommendations. There's a couple, engineering things that we have to clean up. I think a lot of the comments were related to the stormwater pollution prevention plan. You heard from the last applicant. There's just a lot of information that, kind of comes after the fact of approval. So those things will certainly be cleaned up in due order. But at this time, I'll leave it at that, and certainly happy to answer whatever questions you or the public may have.
Great, thank you. I'll start off with staff.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Paul did summarize the waiver request pretty clearly. Staff does support the waiver request to the 1 inch equals 60 scale for the overall plan. And as Paul indicated, again, technically our roads in the town of Londonderry, you are able to go one way or the other. Although you probably shouldn't, but people do it. Right, John?
It's true.
Yep. So again, that's why I asked him to do it. He did it. One nice thing that they also did is they approached the abutter to ask for the waiver, or excuse me, for the easement. So kudos to them for trying. So believe it or not, I support the waiver request. So
Feeling
probably the
okay?
first time you'll ever hear me. All right.
Gee,
Comment number 3, again,
repeat it, just to make sure.
proposed development requires a stormwater permit. The applicant should obtain all project permits and indicate the permit approval numbers on sheet 1 and provide copies of all permits for the planning department files. Item number 4, as Paul indicated, there are 16 items related to the SWIP. And again, it's something that, again, we just, those items are gonna be needed on the SWIP, on the plan itself, so we try to get it as complete as possible before we grant conditional approval. Now's the time to get it straightened out. And lastly, we're requesting that they verify the DRC comments, from the planning department, fire department, and the zoning department. We've gone through the waivers. And lastly, the applicant has provided draft proposed easement deeds, protective covenants, and other legal documents that are currently under review by the town. That's all I have.
Great, thank you. Kelly?
I'm all set, Mr. Chair.
Wonderful. I'll bring it to the board. Board have any input?
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
So you mentioned 3 of the lots will have wells, dug wells, then the 2 existing lots on Sheridan will have town water?
That's correct, yeah. So the 2 new lots that are gonna be
Two new
accessed from Old Dairy, those are gonna have wells. The existing house at 10 at the end of the cul-de-sac doesn't currently have water, but will get water as part of this project. And then that other lot that it will share a driveway with will have water as well.
And you can't run water to the 2 lots off of Old Dairy
No,
Road?
no, we asked, Waterworks won't support an easement for a cross-country run for a service line through the property. So unfortunately, Old Dairy doesn't have water, so we
Yep.
didn't really have a good way of getting it there.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else from the board?
Yeah, and just the agreement in regards to the shared drive, that looks pretty much standard on what we have always done, and that is in their property deed also.
Our regulations allow it, and
Yep.
they need to play nicely.
Yep, the only way to enforce it is the 2 parties have to sort it out. The town
Yeah, or
doesn't
arm wrestle.
advocate such a thing.
So is there gonna be any more commercial work on this, commercial?
No. In fact, the commercial business, they have since sold it, and Bill has retired. So
Okay.
that actually ceased operations, I don't know, a year or 2 ago.
So
2
when
years ago.
there was commercial, refresh my memory, where did their trucks enter and exit
Off of Old Dairy.
off of Old
Yep.
Dairy? And the stub of Sheridan, is that currently being used by anything, or is that just a paper road?
So yeah, that actually, I think what happened was this lot at the end here, the main parcel that's about 8 acres, I think it was actually originally supposed to eventually have another project get approved and basically tie in through to Old Dairy Road through that kind of 50-foot wide sliver that.
So it's a paper road and it's not today not being used?
Yeah,
or
so
did-
basically the way it was set up is the cul-de-sac is actually, the round portion of the cul-de-sac's in a temporary easement effectively that's gonna remain that way forever. That project, whatever happened many, many years ago, never came to fruition, so it just kind of stubs out to this property, is exactly right.
Can I
It
try
doesn't
one more
connect.
time? So the paper road past the cul-de-sac is currently not being used for
Correct.
anything? It's
Yes.
just on paper?
Correct, that's
Thank
right,
you.
yep.
Thank you.
It looks like it's essentially the driveway
It is, yeah.
to 13.
It's
Right.
not used for road purposes, I should
Yeah.
say more clearly.
Okay. Anything else from the board? Seeing none, I'm going to open up to the public. Does the public have any input? A lot of people in the room and nobody's talking.
Boy, wow.
Seeing none, I will close public comment and bring it back to the board. Do we have any additional board input? I wouldn't think so, seeing we've had no public input. All right, I am looking for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I will Make a motion that the board approve the two requested waivers according to the memorandum from Kelly Karen and John Trottier, dated May 8th, 2024, be item number 1 and item number 2. And the reason is the waiver may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good.
I have a motion from Art, looking for a second.
Second that, Mr. Chair.
Second from Lynn, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? And the chair votes in affirmative. The waivers have been granted. All right, I'm looking for a motion on the application.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to grant conditional approval of a subdivision and lot line adjustment plan for 10 and 13 Sheridan Drive, tax map 16, lots 42-4 and 50-3, zoned agricultural residential 1, Gardocki Family Trust, are the owners and the applicant, in accordance with plans prepared by Keach Nordstrom Associates Incorporated dated April 6th, 2023, last reviewed April 1st, 2024.
I have a motion from Art, looking for a second.
Second that, Mr.
Second
Chair.
from Lynn, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Abstentions? And the chair votes in the affirmative. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. All right, let me see here. We have up next a public hearing on an application for formal review of a subdivision plan to subdivide one lot into 7 residential lots, 94 Hardy Road, map 12, lot 139, zone AR1, Legacy Building and Development LLC applicant, and John A. Morrison Trust is the owner.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, there's one outstanding checklist item, and if the board decides to accept the application as complete, these items should be waived for acceptance only. The outstanding checklist item was the owner's signature on the plans per checklist item 516.
All right, we have one outstanding checklist item. Seems like it's a kind of a housekeeping item, so I would be looking for a motion to accept the application as complete for acceptance purposes only.
Okay, Mr. Chair, the applicant has not provided an owner's signature of the plans per checklist item V16. We will grant the waiver for acceptance only.
Okay.
Second that, Mr. Chair.
I have a second by Lynn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? And the chair votes in the affirmative.
Mr. Chair, I'll move that we accept the application as complete.
Second that, Mr. Chair.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Chair votes in affirmative. The application has been accepted as complete. All right, sir.
Good evening. Jason Lopez, Keach Nordstrom Associates, here this evening representing, actually, Legacy Building is now Marathon Building and Development LLC. And with me tonight is Robert Pace and Austin DeSantis. They've moved the LLC that this project will be under. So as stated, this proposal is to subdivide 94 Hardy Road into 7 residential lots. The property is 11.8 acres. The lots will be between 1.4 and 2.3 acres. There is an existing house on the property that will be raised. All lots will be served by wells, on-site septics, and underground utilities. There are wetlands on the property. All the wetlands are less than a half acre, so no buffer. There are no wetland impacts. We did meet and review this application with the Conservation Commission. They had 2 minor comments and they were addressed. We needed to add the area of the wetland pocket so they could verify it's less than a half acre. And there was some wetlands extending over onto the abutting property. So we added that in to prove that that pocket is less than a half acre. Further, the project was presented to the Heritage Commission, looking for relocation of stone walls, so all the driveways, most of the driveways, I should say, will be cutting through the stone wall. So the plan is to flare the stone walls at the driveway cuts to reposition those. The proposal does include a roadway widening easement to be 30 feet off the center line of Hardy Road and Hovey Road. So that will be granted to the town for future expansion, road improvements, whatever that needs to be done. Drainage is addressed on all the lots by individual ponds that will be maintained by each homeowner. Each lot was provided with its site distance plan to prove safe access, and no waivers are being requested for this application. So I can take more direct questions from the board.
Go over the easement again. You're giving them a 30-foot easement off the center of the road, you said?
Yeah, so it's a variable width right-of-way. It doesn't have a full 50-foot wide right-of-way.
Okay.
So we're coming off the center line, 30 feet, establish an easement. That will be granted to the town, should the town in the future need to realign, widen the road, do ditch line work, slope work, whatever. The town will have the ability 30 feet off the center line of the road to do any improvements.
How far off the center line of the road is the edge of the road, roughly?
It's variable, I don't know
12 to
offhand.
15 feet, somewhere around there?
Hardy is about a 12-foot wide
Yeah,
road.
some of them,
Yeah,
Well, yeah.
12 to
Like
15,
that.
yeah, okay. John, you're good with that?
Yep.
Great. All right, I would, I'll go to town staff here. I see Kelly stepped out, so John, it is all you, sir.
Yeah, and I will apologize, she's going to get
Yeah,
the
I think
the
she's
file for the.
uploading.
Yeah.
yes,
No,
thank you, Kelly.
okay.
Where did you add it?
It's in the folder,
Yeah, go back to the folder.
yeah.
I'll go through the, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'll go through the design review items. The applicant indicates that New Hampshire DES subdivision permit is pending, but we understand the permit has been obtained. The town of Londonderry stormwater permit is needed. The applicant should submit for and obtain all project permits and indicate the permit approval numbers on sheet 1 and provide copies of all permits for the planning department's files. Item 2, recommending that they clarify, address some items related to the lot development plans. The applicant proposes constructing 7 new driveways along Hardy Road to serve the proposed lots. 5 of the lots indicate filling of the roadside swale, and it does not appear that indicates the detail of the design or the detail improvements. We are recommending the applicant meet with Department of Engineering and Environmental Services to discuss the revised and proposed driveway designs. Item B, we're recommending the applicant arrange a meeting, again, with the Department of Engineering and Environmental Services to discuss the revised and proposed utility services to serve the proposed development. Item C, we're requesting that they include, the individual stormwater detention basins will be installed on each lot to meet compliance with the regulations. We're recommending the applicant confirm with the town that note 17 on sheet 1 adequately addresses that the lot owners are responsible for the proper construction, operation, and maintenance of those facilities. And item D, the detention basins does not appear to properly provide the minimum 4-foot top width of the embankment. We're requesting that they revise the grading designs to provide the proper top embankment widths. I have a number of comments related to the construction details associated with the detention basins. Some clarification on the table on sheet 18 to indicate the dimensions for each apron for proper construction, and a number of comments related to the drainage analysis. And lastly, we're recommending that they verify the DRC comments with the Planning Assessing Department, Conservation Commission, and the Heritage Commission have been addressed. We're also asking that they provide a PE stamp copy of the project traffic report for inclusion in the town's files. The applicant did not provide draft deeds for each lot, which demonstrates the lot owner is responsible for the operation and maintenance of the individual stormwater systems, which is one of the comments. We'll work that out. And the applicant has provided draft easement deeds, which are under review. That's all I have.
Traffic study, John, because it was a short form, wasn't it, that was used
Correct.
for this? It appeared to be a minimal, maybe a little over 1% increase in the traffic.
Correct.
Kelly?
Mr. Chair, all I have is the finalization of the draft easements.
Great. Anything from the board?
Just a question on site distance, coming from Hovey on to Hardy. If you're looking south to the traffic coming down the hill, is there any issues there, or did we confirm that there's no sightline issues?
So again, what they did, Lynn, is they checked, they verified site distance for all of those 7 driveways, which they meet. They meet all those. So are you talking to the site
So the
distance?
intersection is really not part of the discussion then, right? We're only looking at the driveways?
Correct,
Okay.
yeah.
No concern of that one on the corner?
No. They all meet it.
Great. Anything else from the board? Seeing none, I will, I'll open up public comment. Anybody from the public? Come on up. If you could just state your name and address, I'd appreciate it.
Ann Fogarty, 79 Hardy Road, and my brother is also here, 81 Hardy Road. Our family has owned the property across the street since the late 50s. I've been living back there for the last 10 years. We have some questions and some concerns. Will there be blasting over in the subdivision area?
If you don't mind, could you just ask the, address the chair?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you
This
very
is
much.
not my cup of tea.
No, not a problem.
I'd rather be anywhere but here.
Not a problem.
Okay, so will there be blasting? Number one. 81 has a dug well. Is there going to be any issues with his water due to what they're doing? I don't know how familiar you guys are, the board is, with Hardy Road. We call it Hardy Highway. It's like New England Dragway. You can hear cars revving up the hill from both sides. To get my mail, I don't go out like during the busy times. It is like dodgeball. I'm like concerned for my safety. It's like High Range Road. It's a cut through. We have cars that come flying up from the south, so from like Parish Hill. They come flying up, and for some reason, and I'm not sure it's just because they have to drive fast, but they come flying up, then all of a sudden you hear them slamming on their brakes, their tires squeal. We've had cars flip over in front of my brother. Annually, we're pushing people out of the stone walls over there. It's a dangerous area, and if they're going to be putting 7 houses in with driveways, with potential children, school buses stopping, trash things, people come flying up, somebody could get killed. It's crazy. If you want to see how bad it is and how fast people drive, come on over, sit on the porch. You guys will be like, unbelievable. From coming up from the south, there's 2 speed limit signs, one across from Pheasant Lane, one across from Spring Road. There's nothing that I found closer to this area.
Are those 30-mile-an-hour signs or 35?
35, I
35.
believe.
Where's Pheasant Lane?
Pheasant Lane is way down near Gary,
Okay.
way down there. Coming from Stonehenge, there's no signs that I could find. So I was under the impression that the road was getting widened. I could be mistaken because, again, I'm looking at these plans and they're, in another language. And if that's not the case, I'm very concerned about the site distance. Because when I leave my driveway at 79 Hardy Road, sometimes I can't see. I'll go out my brother's driveway if there's winter, if there's snow, if the bushes are in full bloom. And if these people are going to be crossing the road to get their mail, because the mailbox would be on the other side of the road, that is another concern. Let me see. I don't know if it's possible if they could put like signage or something up on top of the hill, like slow down, and I don't even know if it would work. Or lower the speed limit like they did on High Range.
No one pays attention to that anyway.
I know, that's the problem.
It's just as fast as it was when it was 35.
Was it?
so.
Yeah. But
I'm one of the
it's-
people that does 30 up it every morning just to make everybody behind
Go
me
s-
mad.
You have to get a parade permit, you know?
And I'm the guy behind you beeping.
I believe that there was a traffic impact study for this subdivision. I could be mistaken, because again, I'm like looking in a file, in December. Now, the location, from what I read, was somewhere from Spring and Gary Drive, so down the other end of Hardy. Why didn't they do it up near like the Stonehenge area to see that? And just to compare the two, because both roads, both traffic coming both ways. Plus, when, they shut down the highway, it's a cut-through. People are cutting through that way, plus to get over to Mammoth Road. And I didn't know, this is just something else that I thought, the town is dealing with water issues. So if we're widening roads or doing that, which I thought they were, but maybe I'm wrong, why couldn't we put in like water pipes, for the future, if that's the way that, because that's how we're going to have to go pretty soon, I'm guessing. And then in 2008, a report was completed by the Planning Department and I believe the Heritage Committee. A task force went around and looked at like a bunch of houses in Londonderry that had potential historical properties. 94 Hardy is listed as one of those. It's an old farmhouse. It was built in 1782. Is the town doing anything to save the old farmhouses, to preserve the history of Londonderry?
There is a list of, I think it's 137 properties that are on our historical properties list, which was put together back in 2007 when it was adopted by the town council then, of the historic properties of interest.
Yes.
The town doesn't have the wherewithal to purchase them or do anything with them.
Right.
But at least it gives cognizance to the public that these are considered historically significant. And I know some of the work that the task force did, they worked with, there's a number of property owners that really love old houses, and they put a lot of work into it to look at. They even went to the point of trying to get the, submitting state legislation, which of course failed, to, reduce the tax burden for people with historical properties, but the legislature thought otherwise. Because as David Colglazier and I went up and testified, and we had a good argument and everything for it, which worked good for Londonderry, but then the assessor from the city of Portsmouth was there and said if you did that, half the city would be, have to have reduced taxes, so.
Yeah. Well, and I knew they did it about old barns and helping residents fix old
Yeah,
barns.
that's what
I
it's
didn't
kind of
know-
modeled after that, but.
Yeah.
Excuse me, and one other thing I believe that this property may fall under is the demolition delay. And Art, you're probably better versed in it than I am. So again, before somebody is issued a demolition permit, they have X many days to.
Yeah, it goes to the building inspector. Building inspector gives it to the demolition delay committee, which is actually separate from the Heritage Commission. And I think it's a 45-day period in which they can investigate and make suggestions what to do. But all it is simply just a delay. And it's actually was used for what is the Coach Stop restaurant now.
Yeah.
And that was more. I think the economy took effect, and the developer didn't have the money to demolish it and put something new and fancy there. So, and I know the Historical Society was out protesting it in the middle of a pretty good snowstorm to bring it to public recognition. But I think in the meantime, the McDonough family had bought it, and they were restaurateurs. They knew how to run a restaurant. So.
Yeah.
Chair, if I
It
could just
saved
note
it.
one other item.
Sure.
This did go before the Heritage Commission, and the primary comment was relating to preservation of the stone walls.
Yep.
Which the applicant has
Yes.
shown. on the plan.
Yeah, I see that actually on the plans. There's a handful of them that they have, using them as lot lines, stuff like that.
Well, and I guess my point is, it's just too bad that the town couldn't, and maybe not this property, because I know like the barn's falling apart, and I don't know the shape of the house, but couldn't have the developers, instead of tearing down the old houses, you know, rebuild them and sell them as an old farmhouse. I'm sure that would be potentially more expensive than getting rid of it and just doing a new modern house, but, yeah, so, I mean, Mike, that's our concerns, regarding the development. It's too bad. Obviously, we've been here a long time. We've seen a lot of development in Londonderry. I don't believe the goal of the town is to develop every undeveloped land that we own, that the residents have, but we've had a lot of development and a lot of traffic concerns and a lot of water concerns. So,
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Jason, could you just, before the next person comes up, could you just address any of the blasting questions, please?
Yeah. So blasting, we did a number of test pits through the property to prove locations of the 4,000 square foot septic reserve area. And, you know, no ledge encountered in terms of significant that would relocate the septics. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that there won't be any blasting. This is the Granite State. You know, will you know, ledge pop up, you know, when they're digging a footing that may need to be hammered or, you know, blasted. It's possible. But significant blasting to, you know, to create pad sites, to create lots, no. Any rock removal, you know, would be dealing with the foundation and the footings if it's uncovered when they're putting the foundation in.
Yeah, there's a process
There's
for
a
blasting
process filing
anyway,
with the fire
so-
department, yeah.
And so there's notification and,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Um,
Are we gonna
yes, I'm going.
address individual things, or wait till everybody talks and then?
I just wanted him to answer the blasting one first, and then it'll come back to us once we finish up with the public.
Okay.
Anybody else from the public? State your name and address, please. Take your time.
Moving a little slower these days. Deb Paul, 118 Hardy Road. This project concerns me. I understand people have a right to build. I thought the original plan was they were going to have a road on Hovey, which I would be very happy with. I want to echo what this woman was saying. They start at the top of the street, they shut their lights off, and they drag to Stonehenge stop to see who can go fastest in the night. I've said it at traffic safety. It's been a concern. The traffic on that road is crazy. We have had a death there. That road is just a horrible road, and that section of it, the sight lines, I would even challenge some of those sight lines, because I know when you pull out of Hovey onto Hardy, you're halfway in the street before you can even see what's coming down. And so traffic is a huge, huge concern. And I would like to reiterate what she said about whenever there is an accident between exit 4 and exit 5, they reroute the traffic through Hardy Road. So there are days when there is a traffic that from the Stonehenge stop sign, it is halfway up, if not to the top of the hill. If there was an emergency that the fire department had to get to my house, that wasn't going to happen. They couldn't even get through. I do also would like to say my children had to cross the street to the bus. I had to report it 4 times, cars passing the bus, because I have to go on the other side of the street where the mailboxes are. The bus is stopped with its lights on, and they're flying by. And it's just a really bad street. And I want to thank John and Janos, because they had put in that 4-way stop, which I think did do some help. And the fact that the police sit on Hardy Extension and make them slow down. It's just a bad road. My other concern is water, and not necessarily drinking water. So years ago, when they added Hardy Extension, they filled in a retention pond. I had concerns about it. I came. oh, you're not going to get any water, everything's going to be great. I had a dry basement, a full functioning basement. They put in that development within a year and a half. My basement flooded every single time now we have water. I had to put in a French drain. So being in the ravine, I'm very, very concerned that they're going to get rid of all these trees and that suck up, tons and tons of water. And that water coming down is just going to rush right down. And then my house, my neighbor's house, are now going to be even flooded even more. John knows I go out there and clean that drain. That road fills in with water. It's like, comes from both sides of the hill. So it's very, very concerning to me as a resident. And I also think you have to take into consideration, I know they did the traffic study, but not that far down the road is Gilcrest. And we all know what's happening down there with apartments, and they're going to use it to cut through as well to avoid 102. And so those are all really, really big concerns. And I'm not against this. I just wish that they would put a road like they had initially said in Harvey Road, on Harvey Road, and let them come out, have a break, and then get onto Hardy. It would be much safer. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Just to clarify, Deb, that road, just to clarify, that other road that you're talking about, that was actually a separate lot.
Oh, so
if
it's
you-
a different
It's a
development?
different development, yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry then.
Nope,
I
it's all right.
misspoke, I apologize, but.
Oh, just helping you
It
understand
just
it.
really concerns me. If they could just do, like, where's the picture? Here it is. So if they could just do one thing and have a road in the back for houses to pull out onto and then go out, I would feel much safer for the children, B, for people getting their mail, C, for people flying down that street. It's ridiculous. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk to him.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else from the public? Ray? Name and address for the board, please, sir.
Ray Breslin, 3 Gary Drive. A lot of people who spoke here, the most concerning thing is the traffic issue. I live on 3 Gary Drive, which is on Hardy. In the morning, if I look out the window, there can be as many as 20 cars backed up coming down Hardy Road from somewhere to go to work. And also, particularly, well, it could be any time of day, but particularly in the evening, we have all kinds of cars coming back up. Now, some of these folks, unfortunately, don't pay attention to either speed limits or stop signs. The junction of Pillsbury and Hardy Road is extremely dangerous right now because so many people don't understand that intersection and so many people don't stop. Now, on the other end, where Stonehenge and Hardy come together, once again, that's also a dangerous intersection that people don't necessarily even bother to stop. I was pulling out of a driveway on Hardy, just down from Stonehenge. I looked both ways, and I slowly pulled out and accelerated, and a truck comes up behind me, right to the floor, that's going fast, passes me on a yellow line, pulls up in front of me, locks up his brakes, and stops. Now, these are the kind of people that unfortunately are driving these roads. As far as sight distance, I see the folks have done studies on this. Don't feel as though it's a problem. I think it is. Now, the fact that they're going to make this a 30-foot, I believe, from the center line, which means the whole stone wall is going to have to be moved, which I assume they're probably going to rebuild in this facility. The other thing, yes, is about water and stormwater in particular. there's going to be clearing there, there's going to be blasting there, and there's going to be stormwater runoff, which we in the town of Londonderry are currently dealing with. We're required to oversee this, and we got a lot of work to do. Eventually, probably, there's going to be water continued that now only goes to Spring Road on Hardy. Eventually, there's going to be water coming up over the hill, or maybe from both directions or interconnected, and that may be in a plan that we're looking at. We're probably looking at widening the road. With a lot of things that we're looking at, and we're looking at a development like this, that a property owner has a right to buy the property, has a right to develop it, and we got to respect that. But we also have to be very concerned about the impact on the town in both safety and our utilities, water and sewer, which we're going to have to deal with. And when we look at some of these developments, we have to take that into consideration, that we're going to be dealing with, that's going to cost the town money. And we got to have a plan moving forward, and we got to realize that we got to have a plan that's going to be workable, and that's going to be, somebody's going to have to pay for. I appreciate the developer coming forward. He bought a piece of land. He wants to develop it. He has certain rights, and we have to certain regulations that he's trying to follow. I can appreciate that. But the health and safety of the citizens is a primary concern, and we have to look at these things very closely. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Ray. Anyone else from the public? Seeing none, I'm going to close public comment and bring it back to the board. Board, have any input? You sounded like you wanted something to say earlier. Are you all set?
No, I could talk for an hour.
Well, I'll give you 5 minutes. I think I already have an idea what you're going to say, but go ahead. Let's see how
If I
well
beat you in
know
arm
you.
wrestling, I get 10.
Not on your best day.
Careful. So, demolition was mentioned.
Yep.
And by the way, thank you to the citizens who come up to speak to help give us guidance. That's how this works. It's supposed to be a give and take. Ray took a lot of my thunder, but I'm going to repeat some of the things that he said as well. But the demolition thing, okay, in our regulations, and I do this every meeting, this is part of the regulations that govern the town of Londonderry that we work with. So I frantically looked through to find the Demolition Review Committee responsibilities, 9.3.4, which says it's the responsibility of the Demolition Review Committee to make a decision within 5 business days after receipt of a demolition application as to whether it might be of historical or agricultural significance. So that's the starting point. I'm not going to bore you with all of the other language that's in here, but that's to show you that there is a starting point for that particular item. It's 9.3.4 in the regulations, which spells it out. It's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then it goes on to 9.3.5, which talks about the actual demolition, and it's right in the regulations that when the applicant applies for a demolition permit, the Demolition Review Committee then has to spring into action or not. That's up to them. I've heard many times, too many times, the misconception of, and I heard it here tonight, the town doesn't need to keep developing on all this land. I think it's important to understand that the town is not in the business of developing land. Landowners develop land. That's what they do. The town doesn't. The town regulates what the owner of the land can or cannot do with regulations that are in this book that are voted on and accepted by the taxpayer voters. Everything that's in here It's either state law or it's been voted on and accepted by somebody, by people. So that's how this whole thing starts, okay? There was mention about site distances. Now, when you have a mix of old and new, you always have the observation is, well, on my property, I can't see that far. Well, that's because 1950s, 60s, 70s, 80s, or whatever, the standards were different. And now, John, help me, is it 600 feet?
250 feet.
250 feet each way
Correct.
of clear sight distance, okay?
Correct.
So,
And that's for a certain speed limit also.
35
you.
mile per hour design.
thank
for-
you. So,
yeah.
so in 35-mile-an-hour speed limit, 250 feet each way, clear sight, and that was not a standard back in the day. So many, many, many homes on some of these cow paths that we call roads have blind driveways. You can't see anything when you come out of the driveway. Not a lot we can do about that on this board, but we can certainly make sure that these regulations are enforced by having engineering make the developer, owner, whatever, adhere to those regulations. And it appears, as far as sight distance, that they have, because the engineer has told us they have. So at some point, you have to believe. We do have, there is considerable traffic issues in the town that has to be addressed. And as one board member, I'm not clear where my role starts and ends with a project like this that's 7 lots in the middle of a very busy road that's very narrow. Because what I want to say is, why aren't we, or why can't we, say to somebody, let's get a whole bunch of stop signs and slow all this traffic down? Now, people will say, well, no one looks at stop signs. Well, eventually they will. That's, in the beginning, it's really hard, but eventually they will. You put enough stop signs in, it slows traffic down. It costs money.
Depends on how it's enforced also. It's,
Enforcement is always the elephant in the room, right? There's no question about that. But if you have 4 stop signs within 2,000 feet, and I'm sure there's a state rule and a federal rule and a local rule about how far they have to be, or they can't be this close or whatever, but there's a lot of cross streets there on Hardy Road that, and you're gonna hear this from me again on some other projects, because I had an epiphany one morning at 3 a.m. to say, why are we allowing these raceways and these drag strips? So if I'm off base for this particular applicant, stop me. But to me, putting up a bunch of stop signs in both directions to stop this traffic, I think would be a big step and make it very, very safe, much safer for the people that live on that road, that are stopping on that road, for the hero in the post office that stops that little teeny tiny truck every 30 feet to put mail in a little box. That's a death job. I can't even imagine doing that. But those are my comments, and thank you for allowing me to pontificate.
Anything else from the board? The only thing, I had a couple questions. While Ann was talking, I started jumping on Google Maps and I was following the road. And there are no speed limit signs on any of the stretch that she discussed. Could we put some in?
South of Stonehenge.
So from the 4-way, I got from the 4-way to Parish Hills before I stopped going, and there was no.
Yeah,
I'll
I'll
think there
need
is
to look at it.
Yeah, if we could, I think if we could get some speed limit signs there, it would certainly be appropriate. And maybe something on the turn telling people to slow down because there's a turn. I don't know.
That would be
I'll
through
take a look
the
at it.
town council.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a
Yeah.
traffic safety
It would be
safety
most
committee.
appropriate to raise that traffic safety.
Yeah.
have action taken by way of the town council.
Okay.
Meaning, it wouldn't be a condition or related to this particular project, but we can certainly
Okay.
take your comment.
Put a little
for each
little
one.
note for them to
Actually, again,
take a
it
look.
doesn't necessarily need to go to town
That's
council.
fair.
It's something that the Traffic Safety Committee, so I will bring it to the attention.
It's also possible some of those maps aren't up to date.
Yeah, I
Could be
was
over
wondering
10
how
years
old this was. I'm like,
Yeah.
That's why I need to look at it and,
Yeah.
you know, and did it disappear quite
That
often.
too.
Trust
you know,
me.
I think that's fair, and if you
still
could
got
let me
that
know
sign
after you
here?
look, I'd be more than happy to send something off to the Traffic Safety
You got
Committee.
something in your garage? Some of those spare signs?
Yeah.
Yeah, right, I wish.
So, talking about traffic safety, if they were gonna do it, and that has nothing to do with this application, but I would put one at Hovey, at Gordon, at Spring, and then you already have one at Pillsbury and Gilcrest on the south end, that three-way death trap. that
I would
is-
recommend Tony come to
Yeah.
talk to us at the Traffic Safety Committee.
Yeah,
Thank you.
And
we
can
can
have,
do that.
that's
Thank
a
you.
proper forum.
Thank
We
you.
can do that.
Yeah.
So, anything else from the board before we start getting moving here? Fantastic. I believe we have a couple waivers. You looking
No
for a motion
waivers.
on the waivers?
Yes, let's see. That's acceptance only.
No waivers.
No, there are no waivers. Yep.
I'm looking, I can't find any.
There are no waivers, so we are looking for a motion on the application.
Might I speak
Sure.
to one item? So, late this afternoon, I did receive the staff recommendations before you. There's only one item on here under the engineering comments that I'd just like to talk about real quick.
Sure.
And that is design review item number 2B, dealing with the location of the utility lines, the utility poles in the right-of-way. It appears the comment, and John, correct me if I'm reading this wrong, but it looks like we need to get a design from Eversource and have an updated utility clearance letter. The utility clearance letter and the standard practice with Eversource is they provide the design after. We put on the plan what really is our best guess at pole locations. Once we have approved project, we give them the approved project, then they send that to design. Design will lay out the pole locations, and then, that's what would be installed. So this is requesting that we have pole locations, review that with engineering. I've got a cart and a horse issue. I guess my recommendation, we have no problem with providing that data reviewed. It's just the timing of when that data is provided. I guess my recommendation would be to provide the design from Eversource for review by the engineering department. Prior to, my recommendation would be certificate of occupancy, not building permit, because buildings can start construction without power. And if this takes 6 months for Eversource to get into their, their queue, that's all. I have no problem with going through the work and the steps and the effort with engineering. It's just the timing of when Eversource gives us that design and when that's presented and approved by engineering.
So as the comment says, Jason, we recommend the applicant arrange a meeting with me.
Yeah.
Because what you showed is, they'll never build it that way anyways. So it's kind of cockamamie. I've never seen, in my 23 years here.
Yep.
I've never seen them do what you're showing. So it just doesn't make any sense.
Well,
So it's something we can handle
Internally. You guys will
internally.
figure it out.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
probably
I
the
just,
way to
want to
do it.
make sure that we weren't, that we don't have to come back to that
We'll
for
get it.
this
They're
item.
gonna want one
Okay.
pole, and they're gonna want one pole on your property, and then they go down.
Yeah, yeah.
So what you showed was weird. And then you're not even showing a pole on one of the services. We'll figure it out. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm satisfied
right.
with that.
Yeah.
That's fine.
All right, I'm looking for a motion.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I will move to grant conditional approval of a subdivision plan to subdivide one lot into 7 residential lots, 94 Hardy Road, tax map 12, lot 139. Zone agricultural residential 1, Legacy Building and Development LLC is the applicant, and John A. Morrison Revocable Trust is the owner. In accordance with plans prepared by Keach Nordstrom Associates Incorporated, dated November 20th, 2023, last revised April 2nd, 2024.
I have a motion, I'll take a second.
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Chair votes in the affirmative. You have an approved site plan.
I was just gonna mention on that, they changed that LLC name to
Oh, yeah,
Marathon Building and Development.
Yep.
Okay, because that's on the initial application,
Yeah.
so it
Yeah, that'll be
probably
fine.
carries through.
All right.
I don't know at what point it gets changed or.
Okay. Very good. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
All right, gentlemen. We have,
Where are we now? Rainey's Way?
Rainey's Way.
Thank you.
yes, we have a, where are we, see?
C.
We have a public hearing on an application for formal review of a site plan and conditional use permit to construct one building with a total of 3 residential units and associated site improvements, 14 Mohawk Drive, map 6, lot 35-8, zone C1, First View LLC, and DeRosa Development Company LLC is the applicant.
Mr. Chairman, there are no outstanding checklist items. Staff recommends that the board vote to accept the application as complete.
I'm looking for a motion.
Move that we accept the application as complete as stated by staff.
I have a
Second
motion and a
that.
second. Second by Lynn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Chair votes in affirmative. The motion, the application is considered complete. All right, go ahead, sir.
Good evening, John Roque with Roque Consulting. I'm the design engineer on the project. This is a vacant piece of property off of Mohawk Drive. It actually, a little bit of history, it was approved as a commercial site plan by Brown Engineering like years ago, and my client is now looking at doing a residential development on it. We've gone through a couple rounds of staff review and Stantec comments. I think we're down. I saw the comments that came in at 3 o'clock this afternoon. There was a couple cleanup items with Stantec. They didn't look extensive. We've gone to the Conservation Commission. We've gone to the Heritage Commission. I think we have recommendation letters from both of them. We don't have any site distance issues on this road. Mohawk is a pretty straight stretch of road, and I know that I've been down there a couple times, and I don't think we have anywhere near the traffic issues that we had in the last site you were looking at. But we've gone through and done the design on the drainage. That we have municipal water at this site. We do not have municipal sewer though, so we have a septic, which we have a state subdivision approval for, or a state subdivision, a state construction permit for the septic for the 3 units. There is, like I said, there is municipal water on site. There's a fire hydrant almost right across the street. There's a road just to the side of this that has a fire hydrant. We've worked with the fire department on that. The wetland on this parcel is not large enough to actually be require buffers. So we left a little room to it, but we don't have any necessarily buffers that we have to apply to it. It's an open drainage system. We basically surround the development with drain swales, so everything coming off of it in all directions gets to the pond and treated and released to the wetland. That's about it. It's a 3-unit building.
Okay, we'll go to staff for staff input.
Yep. Mr. Chairman, Vice Chair, members of the board, design review item number 1, proposed development will require Town of Londonderry stormwater permit. Permit application has not been submitted at this time. The applicant should submit for and obtain all project permits and indicate the permit approval numbers on on sheet 1 of the proposed and provide copies of the permits for planning department's files. Item 2, submitted formal application, existing conditions plan and owner signatures block on the plans. Notes the owner as First View LLC, but the cover sheet and plan set title block information notes owner and applicant as the same entity. DeRosa Development Company LLC, and are in conflict. We recommend the applicant revise a formal application for all plans and the owner signatures to have the proper listing of the applicant and owner. Item 2, planning board signature block on the existing lighting plan should be removed. Item 3, we're requesting that they update the existing conditions plan to note label and the abutting land uses. Item 4, have a comment to the site grading and utilities plan, that being remove the ditch detail on sheet 4 and provide a label to the ditch stating C gravel shoulder / ditch section detail on sheet 9. Item C, recommending that the applicant verify if a fire hydrant should be provided for the project with the Londonderry Fire Department. Item 3, recommending the applicant revise the submitted traffic report to correct the site generation table, Table 1, title, which is noted to be for an 8-lot subdivision that does not match the site development proposed. We have a number of comments on the project drainage analysis. And lastly, we're requesting that they verify the DRC comments with the planning department, building department, fire department, and the Conservation Commission. That's all I have.
Thank you, John. Kelly?
Mr. Chair, just to note, the conditional use permit before you is relating to use. The zoning ordinance allows for multifamily residential in the C1 zoning district. Through the conditional use permit process, the applicants provided responses to the criteria for the regulations, so the board will need to act on that.
Great, thank you, Kelly. And I will come to the board. Board have any questions?
I'll wait until after public comment.
Sure.
Please.
Anybody else?
This does have a history of being developed that goes probably more than 20 years.
Okay. I will,
It's finally something is going to be there.
I will open it up to the public. Is there anybody here for public comment? If you could just state your name and address when you get up.
How's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good. Becca Frula, 18 Mohawk. So I actually abut this property. So we have a couple of questions, concerns about this project. So this is actually the first time I'm seeing it. It looks like there's going to be a good amount of parking for the residents, but I want to make sure that everybody has enough parking, because I don't know if anyone's been on Horizon Drive or Button, but essentially they are 1-lane roads now. So the newer duplexes that were put in, they have absolutely undersized driveways. So there are people who essentially permanently park on Horizon Drive, and that includes during winter parking bans. So every morning when I go to work, it's like playing Mario Kart, driving out of the neighborhood to try to get to 102, which is not super fun. So it's probably not a good idea if we create that situation going into Mohawk as well. So from 102 down Horizon and then vice versa, like going the other way, this is a huge cut through. So people from the like condos at like Granite and Boulder, people from Crossroads, Dunkin' Donuts, they will come down Mohawk, take a left onto Horizon and go out to 102, and then same thing going the other direction. So there's actually quite a bit of traffic, which is obviously a concern with a road that already has only one clear lane all day. So that's my main concern. My other concern is the wetland in the back of that property. I believe it's actually a vernal pool, not just a wetland. I don't know how that changes the regulations and buffers that would be required, but it also feeds a stream back there, and that wetland regularly floods my backyard, which is fine because it makes the grass really green. But I would prefer not to add any more water into what's already very wet land, if that makes any sense. I think that's it for me. My husband has some questions. Unless you have questions for me, in particular.
I think we're good right now. I might ask you one question when he finishes up.
Yep.
Thank you. Come on.
David Frula, 18 Mohawk Drive. So I'll just reiterate my wife's concerns about the parking situation that was kind of brought about by the 6 units that were constructed on New Horizon and on Button Lane. So it's each unit has like a little lane that kind of loops out of the house, and they connect to the actual road itself. So we do just experience a lot of parking on those roads. So once again, it's just a concern when construction starts on this that they actually, have enough parking so that there's no like on-street parking for whoever's living here. It's just a concern of mine. I walk my kids on this road. I run on this road. I drive on this road. So I just want to make sure that that concern is at least stated at this point in time. This past winter, we experienced significant flooding in our backyard and in our house, and significant damage in our basement due to the flooding. The way that our basement works is that it's lower than this construction would be. So our whole backyard is lower than this entire wetland. So that wetland fills, and it's above our yard. So all that hydraulic pressure just kind of pushes all the water into our yard and then into our basement. So it's kind of concerning to see that pond on the north side, or I guess that would be the east side of that property. Is that north or east? I'm not sure.
East.
East.
The east.
So the east side of the property, because that will be above our basement and higher than some areas of our property. So a lot of that drainage is just going to end up in my backyard, which has already caused so many wonderful issues for me. So I think we've addressed most of our concerns. So I'd just like to make sure that something's done about that, so that we don't have any further flooding in our property. And then one of the other concerns I have is that I don't know exactly how the property lines work, but to the east of this property between 18 and what is this, 24? I think is that town property?
Yeah, it's Meadow Drive.
Is that Meadow Drive? So
I believe
that's
it's a paper road.
Pardon?
It's a paper road.
Okay, so that has a lot of foot traffic on it, believe it or not, for people going from, frankly, I have no idea where, up New Horizon, and then going to the condos on Granite and Boulder, which is south of us. We have a lot of people that trespass on our property. I have videos of it, just because I have trail cameras back there too, just because we like to, watch the wildlife and whatnot. So I just want to make sure that that's also just a concern that's addressed for the people that might be living here, and then for us, that this wouldn't be anything that would impact more foot traffic between those properties. So those are my concerns at this point in time.
Thank you, sir. Couple questions for you. If I'm looking at this right, there are essentially 3 parking spots per unit that are designated to each unit.
Like, if you bring up the site plan,
spots.
like just one of the site plan sheets, I have the,
Plus there's some other room in there.
Yeah, this is designated
Designated.
parking spots per
Yeah.
unit, so there's 3 per
if
unit.
you go to like sheet 3, I believe. Yeah.
Thank you.
So each unit has a garage space and then space for 2 cars outside. So two spaces are required per unit, and we're actually giving 3 for each one of our units. So
Thank
we have a
you.
little extra compared to some others.
Thank you. Was there any buffer impacts on the wetland?
No, the wetland's less than a half acre, so it doesn't require the 50-foot buffer.
Okay.
There was
thank you.
mention of vernal pool. Bruce Gilday did the wetland delineation, and he did not identify any vernal pool on our site.
Okay, thank you. And last but not least, I believe I see a detention area just behind the houses, which would be to the east. And that detention area would be to collect any water that's coming off of any impervious surfaces on that site, correct?
Correct. Yep,
So
that's
that-
what I did. I did open drainage, and I basically surrounded the site with swales that get to that pond to detain it and treat it before it goes to the wetland.
Okay, thank
So,
you.
so that's all withheld on, right on your property then?
What's that?
Nothing flows off from it, or at least the way the design is?
It doesn't change the rate of the runoff.
Correct.
That the design intent of a pond is to detain it so that the rate of release is the same.
So it's not,
Correct.
so it's not higher, right?
No.
The rate is not higher.
Yeah.
So the,
When you do impervious surface, you increase the runoff, but that's why you put a pond after the increased runoff to maintain the same rate.
Yes.
so whatever's moving into that wetland as it exists today, that detention pond is designed to collect that water, slow it down, and not allow the water to get into that wetland any faster than it is today.
Correct.
Am I right?
Correct.
You got it, Jake.
You need an assistant engineer.
You got it, buddy. Learn it. Attaboy.
And then there was.
that PE though.
Yeah. There was a question on, the paper road there. A paper road's just that. It's a road that is only on paper. And I have not closed public comment yet, actually, so I'll let you have one more question.
I guess just, and this is perhaps just from my not understanding of just zoning and how property stuff works, just because we already do experience flow from that wetland into our backyard. So just the way I see it, it's just, we already are experiencing an issue with that. So I don't know if that means anything to anyone, but.
So I'll let John talk to that, because now I'm getting out of my hat.
So again, as we were talking about, again, the
Going to
rate of
Billy
runoff,
Road.
it doesn't increase the rate of runoff, so if you were getting water before, I would be lying to you to say that you're not gonna get any water again.
Yeah, we understand there's not gonna be a change, right? I mean,
Yes.
it was how our property was unfortunately designed originally, but
Right, because I
we
believe
still
you're,
want an increase if, like, we don't want more water coming in, because, I mean, this winter was, as everyone knows, horrendous with rain.
right.
So that's our main
What do our
concern.
regs say about increased runoff on abutting properties?
Zero.
Could you just say that out loud
The
for the people in the back of the room?
Require zero runoff.
Increase.
Increase onto abutting properties.
So that, the way that the pond is designed is that there will be no more additional runoff onto your property.
And unfortunately, it sounds, and I know where you're talking about, your property is lower than the Mohawk, lower than anything else. I think, had it been raised a foot higher, right, we probably wouldn't even be talking. I get it, Rebecca, yeah.
With that, is there any additional public comment? Seeing none, I'm gonna bring it back to the board. Board, do you have any comment before we want to move forward with this? Anybody?
I do, of course.
Mr. D, the
So-
floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as I'm looking at this, I believe I have it oriented correctly so that the garage doors side of the building face the daycare, and the porch back, what I would call a back porch, faces the property of the abutter that just spoke. Is that correct? So really, the street side front of the building is the gable end. And the architectural drawing that you show for the face of the building, the garage face, I think is quite handsome, but you show nothing on what I would consider the most important part of the building, which is the gable end, because that's what the citizens are gonna see as they're driving down the street. So what's that gonna look like? Am I missing it?
There
looking at
doesn't,
sheet-
there
I'm
doesn't
looking at
appear to
sheet
be,
fif-
there doesn't appear to be windows or anything on that side, on that left hand, it'd be the left-hand elevation.
Mm-hmm.
It would be the same siding, it would be, the same look for the edge.
So it looks like, you have shakes on the peak, so you're gonna do the same thing on the gable end?
I'd have to defer to the client on that.
Okay, so,
We can do a freeze board shape.
yeah, freeze board, belly board, whatever you want. It's funny you call it freeze board, because last time I called it a freeze board, I was told, never heard of that before. So then I said, all right, a belly board, this, I hadn't heard of that. But yeah, a freeze board across, different color, or the, whatever the trim color is gonna be, and then the siding the rest of the way, you know, whatever. Something that draws it down, makes it architecturally interesting, like you have the front. The front is quite nice looking, but no one's gonna see it, unfortunately, except for the kids playing on the playground, and they really don't care. So, yeah, if you could do something to dress that up, and then I'll come out and look at it. Just kidding.
Just for the record, Anthony DeRosa is one of the owners, one of the developers of DeRosa Development, so.
Thank you. Do we need to add anything to the?
That would just be put on as a condition,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
Fantastic. So I will look for a motion with a condition.
We gotta do the CUP first,
Oh, we have a
Mr. Chair.
CUP. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah,
Last time
yeah,
we didn't
CUP.
have one, this time we've got one.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to grant approval of a conditional use permit to allow multifamily residential use in the commercial one zoning district.
I have a motion. Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
A motion from Art, second by Lynn. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Anybody else in favor? Any opposed? Abstentions? Chair votes in the affirmative. The conditional use permit is granted. Okay, and
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to grant conditional approval of a site plan and conditional use permit to construct one building with a total of 3 residential units and associated site improvements at 14 Mohawk Drive, tax map 6, lot 35-8. This is zone commercial 1. Firstview LLC is the owner and DeRosa Development Company LLC is the applicant. In accordance with plans prepared by Roca Consulting LLC dated March 6, 2023, last reviewed April 9th, 2024, and with the amendment on the siding, which would be on the north side.
Left elevation.
Yeah,
Left elevation on the plan.
the left elevation on the plan. I
motion.
go by the direction of the compass.
I have a motion. Do we have a
But
second?
is there any particular design, Tony, that you?
We're gonna add at least one freeze board and the.
Shakes above
The
it.
same shakes as shown on the.
On the gable, on the
front
the
elevation, what
west-
they call the
west
front
side.
elevation.
Yeah, front elevation, okay.
All right, now I have a motion. Do I have a second?
You have a second, Mr. Chair.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Chair votes in the affirmative. You have a conditionally approved site plan.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. I have a public hearing on an application for formal review of a lot line adjustment plan to adjust the lot lines between two parcels, 4 Cody Lane and 28 Codyville Road. Map 13, lots 84-2 and 84, zoned AR1. Richard and Lynn Ball are the applicants and owners.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, there are no outstanding checklist items. Staff recommends you accept the application as complete.
Thank you very much. Looking for a motion.
I'll move that the application is complete.
I have a motion and a second.
Second that, Mr. Chair.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Chair votes in the affirmative. The application is complete.
Okay.
All right, sir, go ahead.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Ryan Lavelle, representing Lavelle Associates, land surveying firm based in Hampstead. The owner, Richard Ball, is here tonight. Just want to state that. The owner of tax map 13 lot 84 and tax map 13-84-2 to present a proposed lot line change plan. Mr. Ball intends to exchange a portion, that being parcel A, identified on my plan, approximately 0.35 acres, from tax map 13 lot 84 to tax map 13-84-2. This exchange aims to rectify a discrepancy in land usage and prepare for future development plans, particularly the construction of a detached garage eventually, By consolidating his land holdings and adjusting these lot lines, he seeks to streamline his property usage and ensure compliance with building setbacks eventually in Londonderry. The proposed lot line change still keeps map 13, lot 84 above the 5 acres, eliminating the need for any sort of new state subdivision approval for that lot. Furthermore, this adjustment ensures that Mr. Ball's land usage remains consistent with zoning regulations, mitigating any potential issues related to setbacks and future construction plans, etc. And/or if he chooses to sell this lot at any point, there wouldn't be parking, as I show in the existing conditions, and a shed over the line. By relocating land between these two parcels, it optimizes the use of the property, ensuring that all activities are confined within the appropriate lot boundaries. Addressing the discrepancy in land usage through a lot line change minimizes the financial burden typically associated with resolving such issues, especially for property owners with separate parcels. The proposed adjustment paves the way for Mr. Ball's future plans, particularly the construction of the detached garage I mentioned earlier, by ensuring the compliance with the building setbacks and zoning regulations. In summary, the lot line change proposed by Richard Ball offers a pragmatic solution to optimize land usage, resolve existing discrepancies, and prepare for future development. This adjustment not only ensures compliance with zoning regulations, but also streamlines the land use. At this time, I would like to open up any sort of questions that you may have for me, or again, as stated, the property owner is also here if there's questions directed right at him too.
Thank you very much. I'll start
Yeah.
with the board, the staff. I only look at you every time and say board. Staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In addition to our standard precedent and subsequent conditions, I just wanted to add that verification of the lot numbers and addressing should be confirmed with the assessing department, and then any monumentation that's required will need to be handled as part of the precedent conditions.
Thank you.
I didn't bring it tonight, but I'll submit it in the morning. The two new monuments, the iron rods in the back at the back of parcel A, were set today, and I have a letter signed. I didn't bring it tonight, but I'll be submitting it in the morning that those have been set.
Thank you. John?
All set.
Sure.
Yep, positive.
Fantastic. I'll bring it to the board. Board have any input? Seeing nothing from the board, I'll go to the public. I am opening public comment. Seeing nothing from the public, I'll close public comment. All right. I don't have anything. I'm sure the board still doesn't have anything, so I'll be looking for a motion.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I'll move that we grant conditional approval of a lot line adjustment plan to adjust the lot line between two parcels, 4 Cody Lane and 28 Codaville Road, tax map 13, lots 84-2 and 84, zoned agricultural residential 1. Richard and Lynn Ball are the applicants and the owners. In accordance with plans prepared by James M. Lavelle Associates dated March 22nd, 2024, with the precedent conditions to be fulfilled within 2 years and prior to plan signature and general and subsequent conditions of approval to be fulfilled as noted in the staff recommendation memorandum dated May 8th, 2024.
Motion, do I have a second?
You have a second, Mr. Chair.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Chair votes in the affirmative. And you, sir, are all set. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, and the last new plan for the night, public hearing on an application for formal review of a condominium conversion, 24 Mohawk Drive, map 7, lot 132-34, zoned AR1. PMP Revocable Trust is the owner and applicant. How are you, sir?
Good evening. My name's George Chadwick.
Hold on one sec.
Sure.
Mr. Chair, there are no outstanding checklist items, and staff recommends the board accept it. The application is complete.
I'm looking for a motion.
Chair, I move the application is complete.
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Chair votes in the affirmative. The application is complete. All right, sir. Now it's your turn.
Good evening. My name's George Chad, representing PMP Revocable Trust. Tonight, the parcel's located at 24 Mohawk Drive. It's located in the AR1 zone. Currently on the lot, there is a 6-bedroom duplex, And our proposal is to convert that duplex into a 2-unit condominium. Each unit having about 13,000 square feet of limited common area. So that's the area from the dashed line on the bottom of the sheet that you have there, all the way out to the street. So each lot's getting about half of the front portion of the lot. In that, it's their driveway, the deck, the septic tank. The back half of the lot will be considered common area. And in the common area, the only thing that's there is the actual leaching system itself, the leach field itself. We have obtained state subdivision approval to allow this to occur. And with that, I'm here to answer any questions the board may have. It's simply a change of ownership, or to allow the change of ownership.
Thank you. Staff?
Got nothing?
Mr. Chair, just in addition to our typical conditions of approval, just confirmation with the assessing department on the addressing and map and lot numbers, which really shouldn't change, but just confirm that with assessing, please. And then an executed copy of the condo declaration documents to be recorded at the Registry of Deeds.
Great, thank you. Bring it to the board. Does the board have any questions?
Is there anything we need to do, the town needs to do to, before it's subdivided, make sure that the leach field is operational, or is there anything in our regs about that?
That's basically what they do when they go for state subdivision.
Correct.
So you have to do, there's an application.
We actually
and-
don't have to test the leach field. The state looks at it to make sure the lot's sized properly for 2 land units. And we did receive that. As far as going out and pumping the leach field or checking the, pumping the tanks or checking the leach field, there is no town-state requirement.
Okay, thank you.
So each owner is responsible for that leach field.
That is correct. They'd each have 50% ownership in the repair and placement of the field itself. The tanks are located there are 2 tanks, and they are located in their limited common area. So they would be responsible to pump the tank.
Great, thank you. Anything else from the board? Seeing nothing from the board, I'll open up public comment. Marge, you don't want to say anything?
The opportunity.
I will close public comment and bring it back to the board.
Mr. Chair.
I believe we have just an approval to make.
I'll move, we grant conditional approval of a condominium conversion at 24 Mohawk Drive, tax map 7, lot 132-34, zone agricultural residential 1. PMP Revocable Trust is the owner of the applicant. This is in accordance with plans prepared by Bedford Design Consultants dated April 2nd, 2024, with the precedent conditions to be fulfilled within 2 years and prior to plan signature, and general and subsequent conditions of approval to be fulfilled as noted in the staff recommendation memorandum dated May 8th, 2024.
Fantastic. I have a motion by Art. Can I get a second?
I will second that, Mr. Chair.
Second by Lynn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Chair votes in the affirmative. You have an approved site plan, sir.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
You too. All right. So, we are through our new plans. We're on to other business. I have a Woodmont Commons annual update, which is gonna be continued to June 12th, 2024. I don't need a motion on that, right, Kelly? Fantastic.
No.
And then our second item is our rules of procedure. I believe we have gone through them. Does anybody have any questions on them, or are we comfortable with them?
I got 2 suggestions, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
And this is section 7.5.5, second line, toward the end. I think it needs a preposition to make any sense.
Give me one second.
I would suggest the preposition to.
What's a preposition?
You're showing action.
What's the paragraph?
Okay, 7.5.5. It says, another party to the matter must direct his or her question, and then it goes the chair. Well, it'll be to the chair.
To the chair.
7.5.
You have to-
Yeah.
yeah.
7.5.5.
Yep,
To the chair.
to the
Yes,
chair.
I agree
You
with
have to
that.
show direction.
I agree with that.
Thank you for the English lesson. I didn't know what a preposition was.
That's why you were a gym teacher.
Exactly.
You have to take a bunch of other languages. You start learning as, some languages, there's two different endings for whether it's in place or showing movement, but,
The English lesson continues.
okay, and 7.5.6, next to the last line is the spelling of chair. And I think it's just a transposition of the I and the R.
Yep.
And
So it's
that-
not Sherry, it's the chair.
Right. I wouldn't know who Sherry is.
That's Jake's new nickname.
Yeah. I can think of worse.
The only other thing I was going to suggest, this would be up to the board, is under public comment, 7.5.1, is putting it in bold, so it'd stick out a little bit for the anyone reading it. Yeah, that right there.
Sure. Not opposed to that. Kelly?
Can we just clarify what the board's decision is with respect to public comment?
Yeah, so I believe we spoke, how many meetings ago was our non-meeting?
That was back in October, the second meeting in October, October 10th.
Didn't we have one after
We
that?
just had one.
We just had
Yeah,
one.
last month.
It wasn't that
I
long
was
ago.
here.
You were here. Yeah,
April?
he was here, so it couldn't have been.
April?
Yeah, last
Yeah,
month.
yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah,
April.
that's right. Thanks
So-
for refreshing my brain.
So we did have a non-meeting where we as a board agreed to, what I believe is 7.5.6, correct, Kelly? Would be the statement that we were gonna put out with regards to public comment. That was what the board as a whole was comfortable with.
Yes, that
Okay.
was what, and our attorney was comfortable also, so.
And that is read as, the board will not entertain public comment for matters beyond those which are noted on the agenda for a public hearing. Should a member of the public have a question or comment that is unrelated to any matter noted in the agenda for public hearing, the chair will direct that member of the public to staff and/or the town council as appropriate. I do believe we discussed maybe me mentioning that at the beginning of the meeting as well.
Yes.
That way, if there were anybody here who did have a public comment, they didn't have to wait till the end of the meeting not to be able to have a public comment, and they were directed either towards staff or to the town council where public comment is open at the beginning of every meeting.
Yeah, I think that would help clarify it from any member of the public, yeah.
Does that
in
make
attendance.
sense?
It makes sense. I don't think you need it in the rules of procedure, though, if that's what you're suggesting.
You feel as though if I say it in the beginning of the meeting, it's not necessary in the rules of procedure?
Yep.
My
opinion.
I think it would be good to have it in there.
Yeah, I think I'd like to have it there just as,
It
you
kinda
know, I
sets-
forgot the Pledge of Allegiance this evening. Maybe I'll forget 7.5.
If it was in the rules,
You gotta put the Pledge of Allegiance in there.
So I personally would like to leave it. I don't know how the rest of the board feels, if we want to get a
I
consensus
think why
on that.
not?
Okay.
Belts
Yeah,
and
might as well-
suspenders, right?
Yep.
Sean? Okay.
I'm not going to object, but too many words just sometimes clouds the matter as well. But
Yep.
I'm not going to object.
Okay. Outside of that, Kelly, do I need to have a first reading on everything we've made, or can we consider this the first reading of it?
Yeah, I can move, Mr. Chair, that we accept the first reading, and this will go for a second reading at our, the first meeting in June 5th.
Fantastic.
Just needs to be 2 consecutive meetings, so, yep.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Oh,
So it would have to be tomorrow technically to be the second
It'd have to be
consecutive
noticed,
meeting.
wouldn't it?
Nope.
no,
Doesn't?
this
No.
is
I can
our
add it to the
internal
agenda
rules.
Okay.
Let's do it tomorrow.
So, yeah, we'll do the second reading
work?
on the 9th of May.
Great. So that works, and we will, we'll discuss it
So
again
I made a
tomorrow
motion,
night.
Mr. Chair, so.
Do I have a second?
You have a second.
I have a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? And the chair votes in the affirmative. Thank you. Last matter of business, I believe we're gonna have a few interviews in the month of June for the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission to make a recommendation to the town council. Kelly, did I miss anything?
Question on master plan, when are we going to be discussing that?
Yes, I've talked with staff a little bit about that. I believe they are trying to come to us in the month of June, and we're gonna discuss a little bit more in depth, how we're gonna move forward, be it a committee, a subcommittee to the planning board for, master plan, but, staff is very much on it. I've had a couple great conversations with Mike and Kelly, and they are preparing a presentation for us that I believe is coming in June.
Correct, and we're working with Southern New Hampshire Regional Planning, and we will have Sylvia likely here in June to give an
Fantastic.
update to the board to start the process.
Fantastic, and I think that'll be a kickoff to us finally looking at the master plan.
Yeah, I think Sylvia's looking forward to it also.
If you have any type of committee, I'd volunteer ahead of time to be on it.
Awesome, fantastic. I like it.
And if you want to see any, there's two master plans I know that Southern New Hampshire Planning have done. It's the town of Goffstown and then the city of Manchester.
Town of Auburn has a very nice master plan that I was actually looking at in the recent past, just a few days ago too. So if you're looking for one with a really good format, the town of Auburn is put together very well. Sean, I feel like you're a million miles away.
I know.
I guess I should ask you to move over.
Little late now.
Yeah, exactly. Oh,
This is like back during the COVID era.
Yeah.
We're all separated.
So, Mr. Chair, before we adjourn,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a statement that I'm probably going to make most meetings until further notice.
Absolutely.
And for the record, I would like to show that tonight's meeting afforded 6 different opportunities for the public to speak and in public comment, 6 different times. And I'd like the record to show that, please.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. D. And with that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
A second.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The chair votes in the affirmative, and we are adjourned. Thank you very much, folks.
See everyone.